engineering analysis. That's what I want to highlight. Yeah, now yeah, before I proceed with the actual discussion, I want to highlight one important thing, that is 1 minute. I have some small issues here, please be. Sir, 1 minute, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, since I am talking about heat conduction, transient heat conduction, I just want to highlight the difference between conduction, convection, radiation with a simple example. You can see the heat is moving from one location to another location. You have some fire and you are transporting water from one location to another location. The first case through this hose pipe, where there is no need for any person in between the place where the water is being transported from left side to this right side. Therefore, this is called radiation heat transfer, where there is no need for any medium for heat transport. Of course, here water is taking the place of heat. Okay. Then in the second case, you assume that these people are molecules and this water contained in this bucket is one heat packet, and the people do not move from their places, but they just move their hands, and the bucket is transferred from this location from the left to the right. So here the people are molecules and the bucket of water is the heat. So there is no bulk motion because they don't move from one place to another place. They just vibrate. In the sense, the molecular vibration is represented by their movement of hands. Then in the third case, if you can see at the bottom, a person is moving from the well to the place where there is a fire to stop it. So he is moving from one location to another location, that is called this bulk motion. And at the same time, after reaching there, he will move his hand to make this water fall on this fire. So that is also the vibration. So that is called advection or diffusion or conduction. So convection heat transfer is a combination of bulk motion and advection. So because tomorrow's session, I'll be dealing about the convection heat transfer, I just wanted to, highlight this issue about the difference between the three modes of heat transfer. Okay. Then, before I proceed with highlighting the importance of scaling analysis, I start my presentation by posing three questions to you. You can see the left side picture here. You have some budgies getting fried in a pool of oil. And second one, somebody trying to put their finger in the flame. So the third one is a person making, an expert making the samurai swords, a Japanese samurai sword, just like Kerala's Kalari sword. So if somebody says that I can go and touch the sun without any blemish on my finger, as an engineer, we will say, yes, he can do it. Why he can do it is because I can touch the sun, which is at some million degrees of temperature, but for a time period of 1 by 10 lakh of a second. Suppose if I catch hold of a cup of coffee for a long period of time, or I put my finger in a boiling water, it will definitely burn. But if I touch it for 1 by 100th of a second, nothing will happen to my finger. So I just wanted to highlight the importance of the variable time in the heat transfer phenomena, or for that matter, any transfer phenomena, mass transfer, heat transfer, momentum transfer, like that. So the answer for this lies with unsteady state heat conduction analysis. Now the left side, you have a budgie here. Now I have written a question here. I want to know the taste of budgie. Is taste of budgie a function of mirchi and masala, that is the material, or is it a function of the method that is adopted? Say for example, the duration of frying of the budgie in a pan of oil. So which of these two is important? Is the material important, or the time duration for which it is fried is important? Again, the answer can be given by unsteady state heat transfer analysis. And finally, the most important one, a samurai sword here, which is being manufactured by some special method, even 1,000 years back by Japanese. And of course, Kerala also, we have that method. So how they were able to do? Because the purpose of a sword is it should be hard as well as flexible. Just like a cockroach or a ball bearing. How does a cockroach look like? It is an exoskeleton body where the outer skeleton is hard, the inner one is smooth. Just like a ball bearing, outer surface is hard, inner surface is smooth. Smooth in the sense, not extremely smooth compared with that one. Just like a Cadbury chocolate. So inside it will be smooth, it gives ductility and toughness, and outside it is hard, and it serves the purpose of practical interest. So now all these kind of questions can be answered only by unsteady state heat transfer. So broadly put, you can see a diagram here on the bottom right side. This is nothing but the variation of temperature, which is represented on y-axis, with respect to location. Suppose whether it is a budgie or a punugu or a samurai sword or anything, sometimes you put a hot ball bearing in a pool of cold water. Sometimes you put a ball bearing in a hot furnace. When you put the ball bearing in hot furnace, the ball bearing is cold, the furnace consists of the fluid, air is hot. After heating it to 850 degrees centigrade, you drop that ball bearing for heat treatment in a pool of water, a tank of water. Then the ball bearing is hot and the surrounding fluid, water or any oil that you use for quenching, is cold. So though the direction of heat transfer changes, the phenomena essentially remains the same, and it comes under the category of transient heat conduction or unsteady state heat conduction phenomena. So what are we interested? The ball bearing should be hard up to certain thickness or certain radius from outer end. A budgie should be crunchy up to certain layer from outside. You can't make it crunchy till the end, that is the core of the budgie. If you make it hot, the mirchi inside will get burnt, right? So therefore, there is some distance up to which the budgie has to be crunchy, the ball bearing has to be hard. Who will decide this? Your application will decide this. Is the ball bearing used in a particular application? Therefore, the outer hard layer thickness should be of so and so mm only. Then how does a heat transfer engineer provide the required amount of thickness for a ball bearing? Or how does a chef heat the budgie a particular time? So the duration of time of frying of the budgie really matters a lot in the taste of the budgie, apart from the material with which it is being manufactured. So the science of heat transfer is very important in food processing industries, where you bake the biscuits, you bake the breads and several other eatables. So now look at this graph. This is the standard solution for lumped system analysis in heat transfer. I'll come to that later, but just let me tell you that we are plotting the temperature with respect to location. That means if I put a ball bearing in cold water, a hot ball bearing in cold water, after 1 minute, to what extent the heat has come out from the ball bearing and to what extent it has hardened. Or if I put a bhaji in hot pan of oil, after half minute, to what extent the bhaji has become crunchy. If I put it for 5 minutes, what is the depth of thickness of crunchiness in a mirchi bhaji? So that is what I'm interested. So this is the solution. That is, to x-axis, that is the distance up to which, how the temperature at different distances, what is the temperature? So more the temperature, more the penetration of the heat. Okay. So now therefore I'll ask you one simple question on the whole in this blue color. How can we say whether or not the influence of a heating or a cooling process is restricted to the surface of a body? Or in other way, under what conditions can we view the depth of a body as infinite with respect to the thickness of the region that has felt the heat transfer process? For example, I want to lay a hot water pipe in a municipality in Switzerland or Norway, where the temperatures are below minus 10 degrees centigrade in winter. Say, for example, if I don't put the pipe, say, for example, let me show you here. Yeah, suppose this is the road and there are houses on the road in regions like Norway. This is a house. And I want to supply from municipality, I want to supply water to the residential complexes for different houses. So water is moving in these pipes. So outside the air temperature is, or the surface temperature here is minus 10 degrees centigrade. And you know pretty well that water freezes at 0 degrees centigrade. So therefore, for 6 or 7 months in Norway, the temperature would be very low. And therefore, the heat inside the depth of the earth tries to move outwards, and therefore the water gets cooled down. But it should never come close to 0 degrees centigrade. So as an engineer, we have to determine this distance y below which the pipe has to be laid. Now, if you see this road, on a broad sense, this is earth. Say somewhere near the North Pole region, you have this Norway. So the earth surface can be viewed as a infinite body or semi-infinite body. It is extending to infinity towards the center of the earth. So this is an infinite solid. But your bhaji or a ball bearing is not an infinite solid. It has finite dimensions. So therefore, when you want to decide the depth of penetration of heat, you have to first decide what is the geometry of the body that we are talking about. When I say geometry, you cannot say it is cylinder, it is a slab, or it is a sphere, or something like that. Geometry mathematically has a different meaning. Unlike as per the pure geometrical sense, it's not just the shape alone. You have to view the geometry in a different sense in engineering sciences. So that is why unsteady state heat transfer is divided broadly into 3 kinds of geometries, that is lumped system body, infinite body, and semi-infinite body. And what is it that decides that a body comes under lumped system or semi-infinite or infinite is decided by certain non-dimensional number, like Biot numbers more specifically, which we will be discussing in the next slides. So let me move on to my next slide. So I just want to highlight what I'm trying to tell you here is this question. What does this question? We have to decide when you want to study unsteady state heat transfer phenomena in a particular time, to what extent the heat has penetrated. So that is very important. When you bake a bread, or when you bake a biscuit, or when you bake some food product. Okay. So therefore, to put it in a schematic way, schematic sketch way, I am here showing two kinds of what you call geometries, the traditional geometries that we are talking about. So this is a slab of thickness small t, okay, and an area A. Let us say if I drop a bread in a biscuit or something, say I am trying to heat it, the heat will flow. So suppose if I have a hot slab and heat is escaping to both sides like this, Q and Q. So inside this, I have some heat, and if I drop this hot object in some water, so heat will escape outside like this. Or sometimes you can also study that heat is flowing from the right hand side to the left hand side. So what is the area? This is the area across which the heat transfer is taking place, conduction. Okay, now it has to travel a distance of T if it has to cross from one side on the right side to another side on the left side of this body. Okay, now if somebody asks you what is the thing that makes a difference, say characteristic length. Let me talk about characteristic length. In Telugu we call it as swabhavika podavu. Swabhavika means it tells the character of the problem or the geometry that we are studying. Okay, so you take another example here, like a ball bearing or a budgie, which you have kept in your hot fluid or cold fluid, whatever it is. Suppose if it is a ball bearing kept in cold water, then the green lines represent that heat is moving outside. You can see this diagram. Okay, the heat is moving outside. I hope you can see my laser pen, sir. Everybody, can you see my laser pen?
Yes, sir. We are saying.
Laser pen is visible, I think. Let me 1 minute. I'm sorry. Yeah. So the green arrow marks represents heat is moving outside, whereas the black arrow marks represent the heat is moving inside. So whether you put a hot object in cold water or a cold object in hot water. Now the radius of this ball is R0. So what we are interested in knowing is the depth of penetration of heat. If I put some cold ball bearing in a furnace or a hot ball bearing in a cold water, to what extent the heat has penetrated, because that is what is the ultimate goal of our problem. Okay, now before I dwell into the importance of scaling analysis, first of all, I would like to tell you the importance of dimensional analysis as applicable for unsteady state heat conduction problem. But before I talk about that, let me give you a very classic example from fluid mechanics textbook. You might have come across this, I forgot the textbook name, Thompson or something like that. Okay, I am taking this example from the textbook. For example, I want to design a submarine. You can see here, I want to design a submarine. And design of submarine or an automobile or an aircraft, what is the ultimate goal? To reduce the drag force on the outside, so that the aerodynamic shape has to be designed in such a way that the drag force is minimized. If the drag force is minimized, what happens? The fuel consumption will be reduced. Now, you know that the drag force on an aircraft or an automobile is a function of the shape and length of the automobile or the ship or submarine or the aircraft. And of course, on the velocity with which it is moving, the density of the fluid in which this aircraft or the car or submarine is moving, and also the viscosity of the fluid in which this vehicle is moving. So therefore, I want to know, say for example, look at this diagram. So I want to build a prototype of an aircraft, and I have to check its efficacy in terms of the outer aerodynamic shape. I will take a very huge wind tunnel and I have to do the experimentation to study the effects of all the variables that I mentioned above, that is rho, V, L, and mu. For this, I have to do a lot of experimentation, and each experimentation involves huge cost of money, not only in terms of power consumption, the people required and the time for doing this experiment. So therefore, sometimes it so happens that you can't even conduct experiments, even on prototypes also, because of the prohibitory cost and the time consumed. Now let us come back to this basic example when there's four variables are involved in a test. And I want to know at different lengths, different velocities, different densities, and different, say suppose a submarine is moving in Arctic Ocean. The same submarine is moving in Indian Ocean. The temperature would be different. The salinity of the sea water or the ocean water is different. And because of this, the density will change and the viscosities will change. And the velocity with which the submarine is moving is different. Probably the way you have designed the length would be different. All these will affect the drag force. To know the effect of each of this, much before you manufacture it, I have to do some experiments. Let us say I'll test the submarine for 10 different shapes, 10 different velocities, and 10 different densities, and 10 different viscosities. Sometimes you don't even have 10 different fluids also, because you can't manufacture fluid with 10 different viscosities and densities. But you have to know its behavior. So if at all you want to do the experimentation, I need to do 10 to the power of 4 experiments. Let us say, for the sake of simplicity in our calculations, each experiment needs 5,000 rupees. The total cost of experiments comes to around 5 crores. And just for the sake of example, I am telling, but in fact, it needs even more amount of money. Now, the beauty of the dimensional analysis is, the dimensional analysis is a mathematical technique. Of course, it also needs some domain expertise. Not pure mathematics will help you. It converts all these variables into one non-dimensional variable like this, rho V L by mu. I know pretty well that all of you are familiar with this number, which is nothing but Reynolds number. Rho V L by mu is the ratio of inertial force to the viscous force, rho V L by mu. Okay. Now see, instead of varying these 4 variables 10 times leading to 10 to the power of 4 experiments, if I change the Reynolds number only 10 times, like I have written here, only 10 experiments. If I change the Reynolds number only 10 times, I will be getting the same results by doing just 10 experiments, and the cost of experimentation is 50,000. See, a huge reduction, cost reduction. But how do you achieve this? Simple. You put it in a wind tunnel, you just change the velocity in rho VL by mu, you change the velocity, keep the same fluid, that is rho and mu same, and keep the change same, what you call this submarine or an aircraft in the wind tunnel. All that you need to do is change the velocity 10 times at 10 different values. So you'll get the data for 10 different Reynolds number, which is equivalent to 10 to the power of 4 experiments. So that is the beauty of non-dimensional analysis. Okay, now let me up the ante and go to the next level of problem that we may have. So to put it and summarize the things that I have discussed so far, since I was telling you that today's session involves the unsteady state heat transfer, this is the one-dimensional unsteady state heat transfer governing equation, that is 1 by alpha dou temperature by dou time, that is variation of temperature with respect to time, is equal to second order derivative of time with respect to space coordinate. And the physical meaning of the right hand side is the heat conduction. So more the heat conduction, more the change of temperature with respect to time. Suppose if I put bhaji in water, or if I put the bhaji in coconut oil, if I put the same bhaji in dalda or ghee, the properties of dalda, ghee, water, and coconut oil are different. That is alpha rho Cp by, K by rho Cp, thermal conductivity, density, heat capacity. So they also affect the rate of diffusion of heat into the budgie or a ball bearing. So therefore, more heat enters, then more is the rate of change of temperature with respect to time. Okay. If the heat is moving out, the temperature decreases quickly with respect to time. So this is the physical meaning of the governing differential equation. Now, if you observe this governing differential equation, it is a second order partial differential equation. With respect to geometry, that is x, it is second order. And with respect to time, it is first order. Therefore, you know that you need two boundary conditions to solve this differential equation and one initial conditions to solve this differential equation. So on the whole, I can write that the temperature is a function of space and time coordinate, that is T of x comma t. Well, what are the various methods of solving these equations, engineering problems? First one is exact method, exact solution. Second one is experimental solution. Third one is numerical solution. Depending upon the situation, you may adopt the finite difference method, finite element method, finite volume method, or boundary element method. That is left to the choice of the investigator based on his efficacy or his, how he is accustomed with a particular technique, he may use it. Now, the exact solution can be obtained in two methods. One is Kumaraswamy method. I mean, just for the sake of fun, I am telling, no hurting, no blasphemy, or no hurting religious sentiments. Kumaraswamy method and Vinayaka method. Already I told you what is Kumaraswamy method. You know this story which we read on Vinayaka Chavati. So Lord Shiva and Parvati asks both of their sons to undergo a test so that they can take the the role of Sainyadipati, chief commander of the armed forces of Devasena. So what they have done, they asked both of their sons to move around and have a bath in all the rivers, holy rivers and Punyakshetras, and come back. Whoever comes first, they will be given the supreme command of the Devasena. Now what Kumaraswamy has done, he has adopted the 10 to the power of 4 experiments approach, where he has gone to every possible pilgrimage center and had a bath, and he came back. And he was surprised to see Vinayaka Swami to do the same within less period of time. So what Kumaraswamy has, what Vigneswara Swami has done, he asked his parents to give some technique, and they have given a mantra, and that mantra is nothing but non-dimensional analysis. What they told him, you just make 3 rounds around both of us. SP means Shiva Parvati. So Vigneswara has done 10, so actually he has done 3 pradakshinas. Now for the sake of comparison, I am telling 10 pradakshinas, 10 experiments only. Whereas Kumaraswamy has done 10,000 experiments, but still Vigneswara has got the same result. So non-dimensional analysis is a beautiful technique wherein it reduces time, it reduces cost, and most importantly, it gives phenomenal insights into an engineering problem. Okay, so now we have come across this. We study this in undergraduate courses in fluid mechanics, where we use Buckingham's pi theorem to carry out this non-dimensional analysis for any phenomena and apply a little bit of our domain expertise to come up with non-dimensional numbers like Reynolds number, Froude's number, and then you have Biot number, Nusselt number. So many non-dimensional numbers are there. Okay. Yeah. Now I'll take up the specific problem. Sir, am I audible, sir?
Yes, sir. Clearly audible, sir. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So now I take up the specific problem of interest for today's lecture, that is unsteady state heat conduction phenomena. I am taking the simple example of a slab, which I am showing in between here in the red color. Let us say you are standing here and looking at this slab, the front view, you will get this small rectangle of thickness T. Now let us say on the right hand side, the temperature is 50 degrees, and on the left hand side, the temperature is 20 degrees, and heat will move from right side to left side. But there is also another situation where the example of a budgie dropped in hot oil. The heat is trying to enter from both sides. Now you can see these two arrows, sorry. So the heat is trying to enter from both sides into this bhaji or a bread, whatever it is. Sometimes if you drop the same bhaji, you pick it out from the pool of oil after frying it and keep it outside in the air. Then what happens? This time the heat will try to escape from the bhaji to the surrounding air. Then what happens? These arrows must be reversed. Now the both cases I have taken on one on the left side and one on the right side. Now if you see the right hand side one, you can pretty well understand that is a bhaji thrown in air outside, because the bhaji is very hot and therefore at the center the temperature is very high. The moment you drop this bhaji in the outside air, what happens? It is exposed to environment temperature T infinity on both sides of the bhaji or a ball bearing, whatever it is. Now after some time, the bhaji will attain the temperature of the surrounding air. So suppose you have taken a bhaji from the kitchen and put it in the hall and you wait for 1 hour. After 1 hour, the bhaji will have the temperature equal to the temperature of the air in your room. It will take some time. If I ask you what is the time, suppose if I have taken bhaji from the pan at say 125 degrees centigrade, and I put it in a room, air conditioned room, which is at 20 degrees centigrade, and now I ask you, after how many minutes or how many seconds this bhaji will reach a temperature of say 29.5 degrees centigrade? That is my question. Now this kind of question can be answered by solving this equation, the governing differential equation. But a clever person may ask me, sir, do you want the temperature of 29.5 degrees centigrade at the center of the bhaji or outside surface of the bhaji? Or sometimes some people may ask me, sir, do you want to know the temperature of the bhaji somewhere at the distance of say 28 mm from outside or 8 mm from inside? To answer such questions, I have to know the time history of this temperature, which I have drawn here. By solving this equation, you will get a Bessel function solution, a Fourier series expansion, where it will be a summation of series of sine curves. So such kind of wavy behavior you can see, though you may call this as parabola, but parabola is also a combination of a sine curve or a Fourier series expansion. And after some time, what happens? After let me show you here. Sorry. Yeah. After some time, maybe after 2 hours, the temperature keeps reducing, and finally the temperature becomes same with the room temperature of the air where you have put this bhaji or this ball bearing. So the decay, if you see the temperature decay, it will become a flat. That is, inside every place in the bhaji or ball bearing will have the same temperature of the surrounding fluid. Okay, that is the final solution, which is called steady state solution, and it happens at the time t is equal to infinity. And please remember, if there are any students here, okay, this is a refresher course, so I am teaching fundamentals only, but just I'll beg pardon if somebody is from other branches of engineering or who are not specialists in thermal engineering. So here T infinity does not mean at infinite time. So 2 hours, that is 2 hours into 60 minutes into 60 seconds is a huge period of time. So in that sense, mathematically, after 6 hours, the bhaji will reach the same temperature of that of the room. Now on the left hand side, you can see this is the bhaji put in boiling water, boiling oil. Now the fluid is very hot, whereas the bhaji center is very cold, because just now you have dropped the bhaji in oil. So this is how the temperature profile will be, and gradually it becomes like the bhaji will reach finally the same temperature as that of the oil, or sometimes less only, because you have to pull out the bhaji to ensure that it has some taste. Now, I told you that you need two boundary conditions to solve this. Let us look at the boundary condition. Yeah, this one on the right hand side. The heat will move from the budgie or a ball bearing to outside fluid. Okay. Or from outside to inside. So heat transfer in a solid, because the molecules only vibrate, is by conduction. Whereas heat transfer in the outside is by convection, because there is a bulk motion. So you equate both of them. Now you can see on the outside HA theta star. Theta star means a non-dimensional number, temperature. Generally we call T minus T infinity. But if I divide T minus T infinity by initial temperature of the object minus surrounding temperature, it becomes a non-dimensional temperature, theta star. Okay, so HA into delta T. Okay, this is heat transfer by convection, and this is heat transfer by conduction, the famous Fourier's law of heat conduction, minus AK dt by dx. So similarly on the left side also, this is another same kind of boundary condition. Now, if you see at the center, what is the boundary condition? Temperature is d theta or dt by dx is equal to 0. What does it mean? Just like in a simply supported beam, at the center, the slope is 0. That is dy by dx is equal to 0. Similarly, at the center here, dt by dx is equal to 0. So these are the two boundary conditions. And the initial conditions is when you are dropping this budgie in a cold, hot fluid, you know its initial temperature. So based on this, you will calculate the final solution. Okay, now yeah. So I told you that geometry means not simply geometry alone. So wall, cylinder, sphere are the common things that we discuss in heat transfer. But when you look at in a different perspective, I gave you an example at the beginning of the lecture about laying of the pipes in a country like Norway. How can you see the earth? Earth cannot be seen as a sphere. Please remember, earth cannot be seen as a sphere or an ellipsoid just because of its shape. As per unsteady state heat transfer, earth is a semi-infinite solid. Okay. And a ball bearing or a budgie can be viewed as a lumped system. So these classifications are based on a non-dimensional number called Biot number. Okay. So I just don't want to highlight and get deep into this issue, but I just want to tell you Biot number. This is a very famous diagram from Senjel-Bowles heat transfer textbooks, where he has given a beautiful analogy. Please have a look here. Just like your lumped body in vibration analysis, where the entire body is assumed to have the same mass, same stiffness, and the damping coefficient. In heat transfer also, suppose I want to move into a city center from outside. Just look at this top left diagram, this northeast direction diagram. Suppose a passenger is assumed as heat, and he takes a ship to move to the outskirts of the city. And from the outskirts, he will enter into the city by buses. Let us assume that ship transport in that city is excellent, but the bus transport is worst. Then what happens? Passengers will reach the city outskirts, and all of them will get stranded, and there is a lot of traffic jam outside because the roads are poor, the bus transport is poor. Now, people getting stranded, passengers getting stranded means heat will get accumulated the outside. This will happen for a body with poor thermal conductivity. For example, if a city is not having good transport of buses, means it doesn't have good transport by heat transfer by conduction. So there are three transports for heat conduction for heat. First is radiation, second is convection, third one is conduction. So this city has good convection, that is ship transport, and poor bus transport. So suppose some cities may have excellent bus transport but poor ship transport. Based on that, suppose if bus transport is excellent, whoever comes and reaches the bus stand at the outer side of the city will reach the city center very quickly. So when heat reaches or transports very quickly, everywhere the temperature remains same. Please remember, if a body has infinite thermal conductivity, what happens? Heat will travel very quickly. When heat travels very quickly, there is no difference in the temperature between those two places. So therefore, the entire body is at the same temperature. So temperature is not a function of space coordinates. So therefore, temperature is only a function of time coordinates. మీకు ఇందాక స్టార్టింగ్ లో చెప్పాను. So T is equal to f of x comma t. This is unsteady state heat transfer where heat is dependent on geometry and it is also dependent on time. But a situation where the K, the thermal conductivity of the body is very high, that is excellent bus transport like this in this example, then everywhere the temperature is same in the body because heat moves very quickly. Then X is not a independent variable in that study. Such kind of problems are called lumped system analysis. So how do you define them? Biot number. By using a Biot number. Biot number is heat transfer at the surface divided by heat transfer in the body. Heat transfer at the surface by convection. Suppose if in a body the heat transfer by conduction is excellent, then Biot number is 0 because in the denominator here the heat conduction is infinity or very high. So based on that Biot number, there are only 3 geometries in heat transfer analysis by unsteady state in a broader sense. That is lumped, infinite, and semi-infinite. Okay, I will not spend much time over here because I'll just come back to this slide after we discuss further. Now, what I want to highlight is this unsteady state problem is dependent on several variables. So therefore, I want to non-dimensionalize it. I want to use the Vigneswara method so that my life becomes easy. So therefore, what I have done, I have non-dimensionalized my temperature like this. Theta star is equal to T minus T infinity by Ta minus T infinity. I have non-dimensionalized my length x by L. That is the thickness of this divided by, the location, the depth of penetration divided by total thickness of that solid, whatever I am trying to solve. Then the Biot number and then the non-dimensional time or Fourier number. And I will solve this equation by converting that into a non-dimensional equation. See, please look here. I am highlighting here dou square theta star by dou t is equal to dou square theta star by dou x star square. This is the non-dimensional partial differential equation of the original partial differential equation on the top left side and the corresponding non-dimensional boundary conditions. After solving this, I will get this solution in Bessel's function. See, look at this equation. The equation, the solution itself looks very complex. Okay, now how did they do it? By using the Bessel's function and by converting that into a non-dimensional numbers. Now I just want to run through 3 or 4 slides of how to solve this equation by using exact mathematical techniques but using non-dimensional analysis. So you'll apply the non-dimensional numbers, Fourier numbers, and solve like this. So you'll assume a Bessel solution function, substitute it by trial and error method. You keep on adding up the essential terms over here. And finally, you'll get this solution. See, look at this solution in this yellow background. This is the final solution where the temperature is a function of non-dimensional distance zeta, the Fourier number, and the Biot number somewhere I have to, yeah. Where is this Biot number? Okay, I'll tell you. So now finally, what is it that I have got? The temperature as a logarithmic terms I have got, yeah, finally theta as a function of Fourier number and Biot number is the final solution, a Bessel function, infinite series solution. In all of these equations are converted into graphical form in heat transfer data books, and they are available in heat transfer data books where engineers and designers readily use them to solve a given problem. So by this slide, I just wanted to highlight that a simple, which we consider a normal unsteady state one-dimensional heat conduction equation needs an elaborate mathematical procedure to get a solution. Now today I want to come to the most core topic of my presentation, that is the scaling analysis, which most of the curriculum does not teach at undergraduate level and even in postgraduate level also. Now just have a look here. Rho Cp into dou t by dou small t is equal to k into dou square t by dou x square. So this is our governing differential equation. Now దీన్ని solve చేయడానికి మనం చాలా కష్టపడ్డాం. So we have put ourselves to a lot of trouble to get the solution, as I have shown in the previous 3 slides. Now let us use this beautiful technique of scaling analysis. First, let me highlight the scaling analysis, then I will tell you the disadvantage. Okay. Now, what is this? Just have a look. Rho Cp into dou t by dou small t is equal to k. So therefore, both of them has to be equal. So that is, I made it as equivalent. Okay, just look here. It is equivalent. Then what I have done is, I have considered the right hand side term, that is k into dou square t by dou x square is equal to k into dou by dou x of dou t by dou x, which is equivalent to k into dou t means temperature difference. So let me put it in a simple way, delta t divided by what is dou x? Dou x means that geometrical parameter which plays an important role in our engineering problem. ఇందాక మీకు చెప్పాను ఏంటి మోస్ట్ ఇంపార్టెంట్ లెంత్ ఏంటి. సపోజ్ ఐ హ్యావ్ ఎ స్లాబ్ లైక్ దిస్ వేర్ హీట్ ఈస్ ఫ్లోయింగ్ from right side to left side. Given a given shape, the most important characteristic length is T, the thickness of this one. Similarly, if I drop a bhaji in pan of oil, say suppose this is mirchi inside, right? Heat will penetrate in this direction into the bhaji. So what is important? The length of the bhaji is not important because heat transfer is taking place in this direction. So it has to penetrate in this direction. So the radius of the bhaji of this cylinder is the characteristic length. Swabhavika podavu. ఏ స్వభావాన్ని అయితే తెలియజేస్తుందో, the characteristic that defines the nature of heat transfer phenomena is the one that should be considered as characteristic length. Suppose in problem we should not consider this width or this height, because heat transfer is not taking place from this front to back. The heat transfer is taking place from right to left. So T plays a very important role for a given A. So therefore, you have to replace this x here, dou by dou x into dou t by dou x, with the radius of the thing that we are talking about. If it is a slab, the total thickness d by 2. If it is a bhaji, the radius of the bhaji. So k by d by 2 into delta t by d by 2. So it becomes k into delta t by d by 2 whole square. So beautifully, we have converted that partial differential equation into a simple algebraic expression as k into delta t by d by 2 whole square. Now similarly, this rho Cp into dou t by dou small t, what we can do? Just look at the top right corner. We have converted that into rho Cp into delta t by small t. ఇప్పుడు నేను after how much time the bhaji will reach the room temperature, I will ask that. So therefore that time, this time, or after how much time the heat will penetrate into 1/8 of the radius of a ball bearing, or after how much time the heat from the furnace where I have placed my samurai sword, to what thickness of the sword the heat will penetrate. So the time and the depth of penetration of the heat is important for me. I am not at all interested in all the unnecessary geometric phenomena or the time phenomena. What matters the most for an engineer is important. So therefore, a complex differential equation whose solution by exact method has run into around 6 or 7 pages can now be solved in simply 2 steps. Look at the beauty of scaling analysis. So now I have equated the left hand side and the right hand side. Now what did I get? So delta t gets cancelled. D by 2 it becomes d by 2 square. So by comparing these two equations, now I got this expression for T. What is my T now? T is equal to D by 2 whole square divided by alpha. Say such a beautiful expression. అంటే నాకు ఏం కావాలి? ఎన్ని నిమిషాల తర్వాత బజ్జీ సగానికి వేడి వెళ్తుంది? D by 2 means the depth, the radius of the bajji. After how much time the heat will penetrate into the center of my bajji, provided I give the properties of mirchi and the senagapindi or whatever pindi that you are using, the dough that you are using, that is captured by this alpha. Now I have got an order of magnitude expression for my time as well as the depth of penetration of it. Such a beautiful answer for such a complex differential equation solution has been obtained within half minute. Now, how do you do this? Who can do this? A person who has the knowledge of mathematics cannot do this. Who will do this? Only a person who has the knowledge of the physics of the phenomena involved can solve this or apply this method, the scaling analysis. Em chesam indulo manam? Simply we have applied some common sense. Of course, how do you get this common sense? The common sense will be derived only by appropriate knowledge of the underlying physics of the problem. So that is the beauty of the scaling analysis, which you'll get the same solution by using a complex method. So now, let me come back to this slide that I was talking about. So, if what just now I have shown you, this is the, now look at the first graph here, the depth of penetration, if it is very much less than the characteristic dimensions square by alpha, it comes under one category of problem. If it is almost equal to that R0 square by alpha, it comes under one problem. If it is far more greater than R0 square by alpha, it comes under one problem. So it means a lumped system body is one where the Biot number is 0. Biot number is 0 means, what does it mean? That heat is penetrating so quickly that it will reach the, heat will reach from outside to the center very quickly. So that comes under lumped system, and the solution is given here. I have highlighted, this is the solution for a lumped system. Same differential equation, but by applying appropriate approximations, you are able to get this solution. And you know, all this can be predicted and understand and made a guesswork by your appropriate understanding of this phenomena obtained by applying your knowledge of scaling analysis. Such a beautiful concept. So therefore, I moved from exact solution to the method of dimensional analysis, and I have highlighted the importance of dimensional analysis. Then I have moved on to the scaling analysis, and I am highlighting that it is even more superior than the dimensional analysis. But the downside of this is you cannot, rely on scaling analysis to get exact solutions, but you will get andaj approximations to the solutions. How do you want to plan your experiments with less cost? Which things are to be analyzed properly, so that I can get an order of approximate estimate to my given engineering problem. So now you want to be a smart worker. If you want to be a smart worker, you have to do the work with less effort. So intellectual productivity of an engineering designer would be very high, provided if he uses the scaling analysis. That is how we have to apply this. But unfortunately, we are not giving that much impetus, because if somebody wants to make a transformation into a researcher, the scaling analysis is very important. So provided if you give an introduction to this at the undergraduate level itself, it would be very nice. So I just want to wrap up, but how I have applied some basic rules. Suppose if you have an equation, you have to properly choose what is your domain first. The size of region is choosing that is very important. Somebody may think, oh, no, the width of the the length of the budgie is important, the width of the plane slab is important. That is a wrong notion. So deciding that the thickness is important is also a knowledge. So that is obtained only by proper grounding of heat transfer subject. So an application of scaling analysis needs some fundamental understanding. The second rule is, if you have a differential equation, just have a look here. In the present example, on the left side, you have only first order derivative of time and second order derivative of space. But you may have another differential equation. Tomorrow we will discuss in convection. So where you may have multiple terms, then you have to compare by order of magnitude analysis. Suppose this term is of the order of 1000 and this term is of the order of 100. And on the right hand side, the order of magnitude is 1000. Then this can be neglected because it doesn't contribute much. But still, if you neglect that, it will not harm you and you'll still get an approximate solution. So that is the beauty. Next, the third rule, same thing. If in a sum of two terms, if something is dominating, neglect the remaining ones. I'm sorry. Yeah. Then the third rule, similarly, in the ratios also you have to apply the similar kind of rule. Rule 5, when you have two products, the summation of the products is to be taken. Suppose 20 into 100 means 2000. That is of the order of 10 cube. Where on the left hand side also it is order of 100 into 10 cube. Right hand side is the order of it. So you must now consider equal importance should be given to both terms on the left hand side. So that is how you go by order of magnitude analysis. So, well, to wrap up, the dimensional analysis leads to non-dimensional numbers. Paradoxically, they don't have any dimensions, but they give beautiful insights into the phenomena. And there are several methods. The algebraic method, which is the famous Buckingham's pi theorem, by which you can do it. There is also another method by using differential equations, a ratio of differential equations. This is another method to obtain your non-dimensional numbers. And last one is the similarity technique of obtaining the non-dimensional numbers, which we have studied. So thank you, and I'm now open to any questions that you may ask.
Thank you, Professor. Or else, shall we ask our participants to send their any queries through
sure,
email ID?
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Am I correct, Professor? Yes. Yeah. So with this, now I request all participants, if you have any queries, please send email. Now, I thank our professor for his more informative and excellent lecture on heat transfer analysis. Of course, really, Professor, I tell you, on behalf of all our participants, the concept of heat transfer with a good examples made us really made us to understand very easily and clearly. Thank you, Professor. We are also looking forward to listen next session also on tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you, Professor. And finally, I thank once again all our participants for which you have all listened and patiently and interestingly. Thank you all. Next, our coordinator will send you the link for the tomorrow's session. I request all the participants to join for next session on tomorrow. Thank you all. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Shall we leave, Hema?
Yes, yes. Yeah. You announce the timing for tomorrow's session, sir. Morning 9:30 to 10:30.
Yes, please announce, sir.
Let me announce. Huh? Okay. Dear participants, let me announce the timing for tomorrow. Hema, better you please tell. I don't. I have. Is there any change? I don't know. Hema.
Hello, good evening to all the participants. I'm the convener of the program. So tomorrow morning session 1, we'll have at 9:30 to 10:30. Second session is from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. And the third session is from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Okay, anyway, we'll be sharing the links well in advance, at least half an hour before the commencement of the session. I request all of you to please take part in the final 3 sessions also. Thank you, Ananda.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.